Welcome. Today we are covering strategic revenue allocation. If you run a service business, selling skill, expertise, or labor, how you allocate your revenue is the difference between a business that grows and one that constantly struggles. Before we dive in, let's quickly ground this with a few examples. This model applies whether you're a solo consultant juggling multiple client projects, a marketing agency building campaigns for other businesses, a freelance graphic designer charging per project, a coach or therapist filling your calendar with client sessions, an IT services provider managing systems for small businesses, or maybe a fitness trainer or health coach seeing clients one-on-one. Even a skilled tradesperson like an electrician or plumber, when most of your work is selling expertise and labor rather than goods. If you sell your time, your skill, or your expertise, this applies to you. Because whether you bill hourly, by project, or on retainer, every dollar that comes in needs a plan if you want to build not just income, but a real resilient business. Today, I'll show you a simple model you can use to plan your finances, set your prices, and build a healthier business. This model is designed to help your business grow sustainably and not be stagnant struggling. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to structure your income. So you get paid, your bills are covered, and profit is no longer an afterthought. Have you ever, felt like your service business is making lots of sales, yet you barely see any profit? Maybe you're working 60-hour weeks serving clients, but at the end of the month, there's little to show in your bank account. You're not alone, and it's often not because you need more clients or work harder. Often the issue is how you're allocating the revenue you already have. In fact, poor cash flow management, not a lack of customers, is the top reason businesses go under. 82% of small businesses fail due to cash flow problems. This video will show you a simple way to divide every dollar your business earns into the right buckets, so you get paid, your expenses are covered, and profit is built in. By the end, you'll know exactly how to structure your finances for a sustainable, profitable service business. Now, before we go further, let me say this clearly. The exact percentages aren't the point. If you've got free rent, steady referrals, or a business model that's a bit different, of course, your numbers will shift. The real power here is the process, taking time to define where your money is going and making intentional decisions instead of reactive ones. Less than 30% of the business owners I first speak to even know these numbers. So just by mapping this out, you're putting yourself ahead of the pack. Now, I want to pause here because this is where a lot of small business owners, especially solo operators, get confused. They see wages and profit and think, that's just me. It all ends up in my pocket anyway. But here's why separating them is important. The thing is, wages are what you pay yourself to do the work, to deliver the service, show up for clients, put in the hours. That's your salary as an employee of the business. Profit is what's left over after everyone's been paid, including you. It's the reward for running a healthy, structured business. It's what allows you to reinvest, take holidays, or weather slow months. When you separate the two, something powerful happens. You stop waiting for leftover money and start paying yourself consistently and building a buffer. Even if you're a one-person business right now, you must think like the owner of a real business, not just someone who owns their own job. Let's break down a simple revenue allocation model designed for service-based businesses, consultants, agencies, freelancers, anyone selling their expertise or labor. The idea is to assign a percentage of every dollar you earn to specific purposes. By doing this, you ensure no area is neglected, like marketing or taxes, and you guarantee a profit rather than hoping something's left over. I mainly work with Australian and New Zealand clients. We'll treat all figures as ex-GST, and taxes mentioned are company taxes. Payroll taxes are part of wage expenses. Here's the model at a glance. So this pie chart is a representation of the recommended revenue allocation model. In this model, each slice represents a portion of your revenue dedicated to a category. You'll notice the largest slice goes to wages, consulting, the cost of delivering your service, and significant slices are reserved for profit and a buffer. The remaining slices cover necessary expenses, including marketing, company taxes, rent, utilities, technology, and tools. This balanced split ensures no single cost eats up all your income, protecting your profit and stability. For every $100 your business brings in, you'd allocate it roughly as follows, using the recommended percentage ranges. Marketing, 10 to 15%. Set aside about $10 to $15 out of every $100 for marketing and sales. This is your budget to attract new clients and keep business coming. Things like advertising, website, networking events, or buying leads. Consistently investing in marketing around 10 cents on every dollar ensures you're not caught in a dry spell with no new leads. For instance, many business experts suggest spending at least 10% of revenue on marketing to maintain growth. Wages, consulting, 40 to 50%. This is the biggest chunk for most service businesses, $40 to $50 of each $100, dedicated to wages, contractor payments, or your own salary for delivering the service. In a service business, your people are the product, so it's normal that this is the largest expense. This category ensures you and any staff or subcontractors get paid for the work. If you're a solo owner, think of this as paying yourself a reasonable wage for your labor separate from profit. Keeping this around 40 to 50% of revenue makes sure your labor costs are sustainable relative to what you charge. Rent, utilities, tech, 5 to 10%, around $5 to $10 per $100 goes to keeping the lights on. Office or co-working rent, utility bills, phone internet service, and software or tech subscriptions. These are your overhead costs to run the business. If you work from home or own your office, this might be on the lower end or reallocated, which we'll discuss in exceptions. But generally, you want to limit overhead to no more than about 10% of revenue so it doesn't eat into more important areas. Taxes, 10%. In Australia, company tax is only paid on profit, not on revenue. That means your tax fund only needs to cover a portion of your income. For most businesses, setting aside 10% of total revenue is more than enough to meet annual company tax obligations, assuming you're targeting a 20 to 30% profit margin. If your profit is lower, you'll need even less. Many owners set up a separate tax account and move 10% of each payment straight into it. That way, when tax time rolls around, the money is already sitting there. No stress, no surprises. Tools, software, and delivery, 0 to 5%. Up to $5 of each $100 is earmarked for tools and direct costs of delivering your service. This category covers any materials, software licenses, equipment, or even travel expenses required to serve your clients. For some, this is almost negligible. A consultant working online might have less than 1% here if they only need a laptop and internet they already pay for. For others, it's meaningful, e.g., a photographer might spend on prints, frames, and albums. We normally cap it around 5% in this model to ensure it doesn't grow unchecked. If you find this creeping higher, you may need to bill those costs directly to clients or reconsider if they're truly necessary. Profit, 20 to 25%. Yes, profit gets its own slice of the pie. Aim to reserve about $20 to $25 out of every $100 as pure profit. This is profit beyond paying your own salary, which was in wages. It's essentially the reward for running a healthy business, money that can be taken as owners' distributions or reinvested for growth. By allocating profit intentionally, you're making sure your business is actually worth being in. Too many owners wait to see what profit is left over. Here we're saying make profit a priority by budgeting for it up front, a strategy championed by many financial coaches. A 20% plus profit margin is very healthy for a service business and gives you a cushion for growth opportunities or setbacks. Buffer, 5 to 10%. Finally, allocate around $5 to $10 per $100 to a buffer or contingency fund. Think of this as your rainy day or safety net money. This fund accumulates to cover unexpected expenses, economic slowdowns, or to bridge cash flow gaps. For example, if a client payment is late or you have an unplanned equipment repair, your buffer makes sure you can handle it without panic. Some months you might not use it at all. That's great. It will carry over and strengthen your business's reserves. Over time, this buffer builds financial stability. If you never need the buffer, it effectively becomes additional profit or expansion capital, which is a good problem to have. Each of these percentages can flex a bit, but together they should add up to 100% of your revenue. The goal is balance. Every dollar you earn has a job. Part fuels growth, marketing, part delivers your service, wages, tools, rent, part goes to the government, taxes, and importantly, a good chunk goes to you, the owner, as profit and to your business's future buffer. This model forces discipline. For instance, you can't spend endlessly on new gadgets or advertising because you've capped those categories. It also ensures you don't overspend on operations and accidentally underpay yourself or skip profit. Stick to this model, adjusting within the ranges as needed for your situation, and you'll avoid the common trap of being busy but broke. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but my business isn't average. What if my situation is different? Let's explore some real world scenarios and exceptions where you might tweak these allocations and the watch outs to keep your business healthy. Every business is unique, so it's important to understand why the percentages might need adjusting and not use that as an excuse to ignore the model altogether. Here are a few different scenarios. Owning your premises, no rent. One client of mine actually owned her office space instead of renting. In our model, we allocate approximately 5 to 10% to rent, utilities, and tech. But if you own your building or work from a home office, you might effectively have 0% rent. That's a big advantage. However, rather than simply absorbing that extra 5 to 10% into miscellaneous spending, we intentionally reallocated it. She put a portion of what would have been rent into her buffer and maintenance fund because buildings still need upkeep and occasional repairs, and the rest bumped up her profit. This way, she was still accounting for the true cost of using that space, maintenance, property taxes, etc., and she enjoyed higher profits since she wasn't paying rent to someone else. The watch out: if you have no rent expense, don't get complacent and let another category, like wages or tools, inflate without scrutiny. Instead, consciously redistribute the freed up funds to bolster your profit or savings. Owning your premises is a boon. Just ensure it translates to better margins or future ready reserves, not wasted funds. Minimal marketing needed due to long-term contracts. Another scenario: I worked with a client who landed a multi-year contract with a large client. For a while, they barely needed to spend on marketing. Their project was secure and their team was at capacity. In our model, 10 to 15% goes to marketing, but in this case, that would have been unnecessary spending. For those contract years, they reduced marketing to approximately 2% for basic relationship management and allocated the extra budget to buffer and a portion to profit. However, here's the catch. When that contract eventually ended, they had to ramp up marketing aggressively to find new clients. Because they saved consistently, they had funds ready to deploy for marketing when needed. The lesson is, it's fine to temporarily spend less in a category like marketing if your circumstances allow, but be cautious. Long-term contracts can give a false sense of security. Always be preparing for the next client. If you cut marketing now, consider saving that 10% in your buffer so you have a war chest to attract business later. Don't fall into the trap of forgetting marketing entirely. Otherwise, when the big contract ends, your pipeline could be empty. Okay, next is the underpricing trap. Let's talk about a cautionary tale that I see far too often: underpricing your services. I had a coaching client who was charging much less than the market rate because she felt new to running a business. She got lots of clients from word of mouth, which is great, but she was working crazy hours and struggling financially. When we analyzed her revenue allocation, we found why. Almost 85% of her revenue was gobbled up by costs, mainly paying rent, travel, and software subscriptions, leaving her less than 15% for taxes and profit combined. She had effectively no buffer and almost no profit. She was just barely breaking even despite being busy. This is the trap underpricing sets. You might cover wages and expenses, but there's nothing left for you, the owner. It's unsustainable. You feel like you're running on a hamster wheel. We helped her raise her prices by approximately 30% across the board, with a higher increase for her most time-consuming service. Yes, she lost a couple of bargain hunting clients, but most stayed because they loved her work. Plus, I assisted her in refining her marketing message and targeting, but that's another story. Within a few months, her allocations shifted. labor dropped to approximately 50% of revenue, and profit shot up closer to 20%. Now she finally had breathing room, money for taxes, a growing buffer, and the confidence that she wasn't undercutting herself. The key watch out: if you constantly feel broke despite good sales, check if you're underpriced. Compare your pricing to this allocation model. If your wages or delivery costs are exceeding 50% of revenue, it's a red flag. You either need to charge more, reduce costs, or a mix of both. Don't be afraid to reposition your pricing. Selling your service at a sustainable rate is better for you and for clients. They get a stable, thriving provider, not one burnout away from closing their doors. Intentional splurges or cuts. Know the trade-offs. Real life isn't always steady, and there may be times you intentionally go outside these percentage ranges. That's okay if you do it deliberately and temporarily. For example, maybe you decide to invest in a big marketing push for a new product launch. You might spend 20% of revenue on marketing for a quarter, doubling the usual share. This will squeeze your profit in the short term, but you plan it because you have extra buffer saved and you expect higher future revenue. The model isn't a rigid law, it's a dashboard. If you go over in one category, aim to compensate in another, or have a timeline to bring it back in line. Another example: suppose you find a fantastic software tool that will automate work and save labor hours. It might move your tools category to 6%, just above the guideline, but reduce your needed wages to 38%. That can be a healthy trade-off. What to watch for here is losing balance long term. Anytime you exceed these recommended ranges, do it with intention and track the impact. Set a period to review and see if the bet paid off. Did that extra marketing spend bring in enough new business? Did the pricey tool actually let you cut labor costs, or was it unnecessary? Use the model as a guidepost to bring you back to equilibrium after special circumstances pass. The beauty of having this framework is that it gives you an early warning if something is out of whack and eating into your profit. How to price services to hit these targets. By now you might be wondering, how can I actually achieve these percentages? Especially if you suspect you might be undercharging, this part is crucial. Structuring your finances starts with how you price your services. If your prices are set correctly, hitting these allocation targets becomes much easier because the pie is big enough to slice up. Here's how to approach pricing for sustainability. 1. Calculate your true service delivery cost. First, figure out what it really costs to deliver your service. In a service business, the biggest direct cost is usually labor, either paying someone else or the value of your own time. Include wages, salaries, or freelance fees for the hours needed. Also include any materials or specific tools used for that job, and even an allocation for related overhead if applicable. For example, if a project takes a week of your time, that's 1 week's worth of your rent and software that should be factored in. Let's say you run a small marketing agency and you're pricing a project. You estimate it will take 10 hours of your employees' time and you pay them $30 per hour. I've chosen a round number to simplify the math. That's $300 in labor cost, plus maybe $20 of stock photos or software usage for the project. Total direct cost equals $320. Apply a healthy markup. 2.5 times to 3 times is a good rule of thumb. So you take that true cost and mark it up by about 2.5 to 3 times to get your price. This might sound high, but remember that markup has to cover all those other categories: marketing, taxes, profit, etc. Using our example, $320 cost times 2.5 equals $800. This suggests you should charge at least $800 for the project to meet the target allocations. If you go up to 3 times, $320 times 3 equals $960. In many cases, you might round to something like $900 or $950 as a nice market-friendly number, which is still in that range. This 2.5 to 3 times formula is a common pricing guideline in service industries. Essentially, it targets a gross margin of around 60 to 65%. Gross margin is the percent of revenue left after direct costs. If you charge $800 for something that costs you $320 in labor and tools, your gross margin is 60%, meaning 40% of revenue went to direct costs, which is right in line with our wage target. That 60% gross margin, $480 in this case, is what you then distribute to all the other needs, profit, taxes, etc. Many consulting firms, agencies, and contractors use this kind of markup. It ensures that after paying the people who do the work, there's enough money remaining to run the business and profit. If you find that 2.5 times or 3 times your cost would price you out of the market, that's a red flag. It means either you need to find a way to reduce costs or perhaps you're targeting the wrong customers. But often it means you've been undervaluing yourself. Don't be afraid to test higher pricing. Remember my client in the earlier story who raised prices and finally became profitable. Good clients understand the old adage, you get what you pay for. Test and refine pricing with the allocation in mind. After calculating a price, run it through the allocation model as a check. Ask, if I charge this and then I allocate, say, 45% to wages, 10% to marketing, etc., does it work? Do I end up with a solid profit margin? For example, imagine you considered charging only $500 for that project that cost $320. $500 revenue minus $320 wages leaves $180. Could that $180 also cover marketing, tax, overhead, and still leave profit? Likely not. It would violate the model. Wages would be 64% of revenue in that case, leaving too little for everything else. Let's say you charge $800 for a service. If your labor cost to deliver it is $320, that's 40%, right in range. That leaves $480 to allocate across everything else. From there, you might assign $80 to marketing, 10%, $40 to rent and tech, 5%, $80 to taxes, 10%, $16 to tools, 2%, $80 to buffer, 10%, and $184 to profit, just over 23%. Now you've covered everything the model recommends, and you've got real margin. That's the power of pricing intentionally. So use the model as a guide. If a prospective price doesn't allow you to hit something close to these percentages, that price is too low. You either need to charge more or find ways to do the work cheaper. This ensures you're not signing up for projects that will make you run at a loss. Communicate your value. Don't compete on price alone. Often, service business owners underprice because they fear clients won't pay more. But hitting these revenue allocations means you must believe in the value you provide. If your price comes out higher than competitors, be ready to differentiate yourself on quality, service, or outcomes, not price. Don't worry, we have extensive training on that subject too. In the long run, clients who only shop for the lowest price are not the ones that help you build a stable business. By pricing correctly, you attract clients who value your work and you ensure you can deliver great results since you're not cutting corners due to razor-thin margins. It's a win-win. In practical terms, this might mean creating packages or emphasizing ROI to justify your higher than rock bottom rates. Remember, setting a sustainable price is a key part of taking care of your business's financial health. Review prices regularly. Costs change, software fees go up, you might hire more staff, etc., and your desired profit might change too. Make it a habit to review your pricing at least once a year against your allocation targets. If you added new expenses in delivery, adjust your rates accordingly. If you find you're consistently beating the profit target, say your profit is hitting 30% easily, you could choose to invest more in growth or give raises or enjoy the higher profit. But it should be a conscious choice. Pricing isn't set and forget. Regular check-ins ensure you continue to meet those percentage allocations as your business evolves. This way, you're never caught by surprise by shrinking margins. As you apply the model, these are the 3 red flags to watch out for. If wages are above 50%, you're likely underpriced or overstaffed. If marketing drops below 5%, your future pipeline is at risk. And if profit consistently falls under 15%, something in your pricing or delivery needs attention. These aren't just financial metrics, they're early warning signs. If your business is seasonal, like tourism, trades, or education, you'll need to adjust the model, not abandon it. During your peak phase, allocate a higher percentage to your buffer, maybe 15 to 20%, to carry you through the off-season. You might also temporarily increase marketing to generate leads for the slow period. The goal is to smooth out the cash flow and give yourself breathing room between busy times. A common question I am asked is, should I follow this model from startup? My answer is yes, but with temporary adjustments. If you're early in business, the model still applies, but with flexibility. You might allocate more to marketing and less to profit at the start. If you can't pay yourself a full wage yet, start with something, but don't sacrifice marketing or your buffer completely just to squeeze out a bit more take home. In the growth phase, you might be hiring, reinvesting, or dealing with lumpy revenue. Hire when you're consistently at capacity and your pricing supports 40 to 50% going to wages, including new staff. For big purchases, use accumulated profit or your buffer, not your regular ops budget. And yes, you can reinvest while still taking owner profit. Aim for at least 10% of revenue as personal return. Even for larger or more mature businesses, this model still holds. If you offer multiple services, track allocations separately. This will reveal which services are actually profitable. If you have a larger team, your wage percentage may increase slightly due to management overhead, but your profit should still remain strong. Many mature businesses achieve 25 to 30% profit through efficiency and premium positioning. So, how do you put this into practice? Start by reviewing your last 3 months of revenue and spending. Where is your money actually going? Set regular transfer days. This builds discipline. Track how your actual allocations compare to the targets and review every 90 days to fine tune your approach as things evolve. Here's where it all comes together. Set clear allocations, price for profit, track your progress, and adjust as needed. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be intentional. Start small, stay consistent, and you'll build something truly sustainable. You started your service business to share your skills and to build a better life for yourself. A profitable, well run business means you can do more of what you're great at without burning out and actually enjoy the rewards of your hard work. So take this model, customize it to your reality, and run with it. Your future self, confident, stress free, and maybe even taking a vacation, knowing the business finances are solid, will thank you. Thank you for watching. Now go forth and grow that sustainable, profitable business. Here's to your success.